We are here at the Long Beach Sunnyside Cemetery and Municipal Cemetery for the 27th annual cemetery tour put on by the incredible folks at the Long Beach Historical Society. People like me who grew up in Long Beach, we see street names and building names and we understand that there's stories and people behind some of those names, but we don't always get a chance to know what they are. And today we have an incredible group of actors who are going to tell some of those stories that are funny and heartwarming and really important to the history of our city. So tune in now to see one of those stories happen.
Welcome. I am Captain Billy Graves, and there are 15 of us Graves buried here. I won't bore you with the full list, but suffice to say that you are surrounded by Graves. Thank
Never
you.
gets old. I'm Edmund Griffin. I'm not buried here. I just came by to see my pal Captain Billy. We help bring the wild beasts of the sea to the public.
I was 21 when I first landed in Long Beach in 1885. My family moved here from Kansas, and I took one look at that Pacific Ocean, and I heard the siren call. So I bought a boat, and I made my living taking people out on fishing expeditions or entertaining tourists who wanted to see the sights from the ocean. One time, I thought I saw a small little island floating by the boat. Turns out, it was a gigantic sea turtle, nearly 20 feet long and almost 3,000 pounds. Why, I took one look at that magnificent creature, and I thought, somebody, hand me my harpoon!
He hit it, but didn't kill it. It was later seen by other boaters, recognized by the harpoon embedded in its shell. Well, there were even larger sea creatures in Long Beach waters, whales. In 1897, an ailing 63-foot-long whale was towed to the shoreline and became an immediate fascination. People flocked from all around to see it. Railroads offered whale excursions to bring people to Long Beach. The locals named the whale Minnie, but it wasn't long before Minnie took her last breath.
And as poor Minnie decomposed, the odor, it became overpowering. Well, a local taxidermist, he came in and he removed all the flesh and the blubber. And then the bones, they were displayed all around the city. Why, they were at the pier and at the basement of the public library, Colorado Lagoon, and finally at the fire station number 1 on Pacific.
A zoology student visited Minnie and counted the bones.
Yes.
Someone had stolen a vertebra from her tail. Although never recovered, the spectacle of Minnie's skeleton remained an attraction for many years. Eventually, Minnie's bones would find a home at LA's Natural History Museum.
Now, by 1913, whale fishing offered yet another profitable enterprise: fertilizer. See, there was a large plant out by the harbor, and it took in whales and other fish, and then it dried them out, and it turned them into a rather odoriferous compost.
The residents of Long Beach complained to the city council about the stench. They turned it over to the health department, who ordered the plant owner to stop. He refused.
Yep.
He was arrested and released. The police said that they would arrest him every day until he closed the plant.
To the relief of neighbors, he complied. But just a few years later, whales were once again the targets of capitalism. This time for their tasty tenderloin steaks. Now, in my family, we operated a small fish market down at the end of the pier. And I can tell you that those steaks, they were popular.
Now, let's get to the important part of this story,
yes,
Billy. The era when these enormous sea animals became eye-popping exhibits that put cash in the pocket.
I still remember how many times people asked me about that gigantic sea turtle.
And about Minnie the whale before she became Minnie the skeleton.
The whale exhibition era, it began with harpooned whales that were anchored just offshore. And boatmen, like me, we would charge people a quarter and take them out to see them. Well, when those whales decomposed, the odor, it just wafted onshore. And when the complaints, they got loud enough, The whales were pulled out to sea and then they were unmoored.
Now, some investors and I saw the potential. We knew that we could lure more paying customers if we took this show on the road. In our case, the railroad.
Well, your first whale was over 80 feet long, even larger than Minnie.
Yes, we loaded these leviathans on rail cars and pulled and parked them on side rails up and down the coast. You never saw so many people, all lined up to pay their quarter to see a whale. Signs claimed that the exhibits were educational. We outfitted men in blue uniforms with brass buttons to talk about the creatures.
Yes, it reminded me of the pike. Let me tell you something. I went out and I talked to one of those men in the fancy nautical uniforms. And, well, the closest that he ever came to the ocean was when he had sea bass for dinner.
The exhibit made $100,000 in 6 months. That's 1.7 million in today's dollars. Yes, but like Minnie and all the others, the whales would decompose and smell horrible.
But Ed, he was determined to find a solution. So just hours after the next whale was killed, he began the job of preserving it and trying to mask that odor.
I poured barrels of formaldehyde and salt into the whale. The animal exploded.
Gross. Just awful.
Needless to say, it was unpleasant.
Yes. Very.
But the investors and I, we couldn't give up. The money was too good to just walk away.
Oh, it wasn't easy. He had to keep preserving the whale by injecting preservatives into the carcass. Oh, he tried everything he could think of, even fruit juice.
I shopped at local mortuaries. It takes considerably more fluid to embalm a whale than even the portliest human. Well, finally, I found something that preserved the creature. It masked even the foulest odor.
Yes. My friends, this man standing here before you, Edmund Griffin, was the first person to ever embalm a whale. Think of that. Whale embalming. It began right here in Long Beach.
I had to train men for the process of embalming whales. At the height of the craze, there were 10 different whales across the country on exhibit. There were exhibits in England, Japan, China, and the Philippines. Like the circus, whenever the exhibit was coming to town, advanced men would take out ads in local papers and plaster up posters to attract crowds.
And in spite of the stock market crash of 1929, demand for these exhibits grew. Now, I could understand that. I mean, as a boy growing up in Kansas, I would have been the first in line to see such amazing creatures for just 25 cents.
And our exhibits, they became more elaborate.
Yes, he got a flea circus, and he advertised that they had the largest and the smallest creatures on Earth, all in the same place.
Still, I could tell. People were losing interest. We weren't seeing the crowds or the profits we had in the past.
It seemed that people who would pay to see an embalmed whale had already done so.
Yes, well, today, harpooning whales for exhibits would be rightfully illegal, not to mention publicly very unpopular.
Oh, I know they'd come after me for harpooning that sea turtle. I mean, they are endangered now. But, you know, back in those days, people, they just didn't talk about those things. I wouldn't have done it if I had known.
Well, Billy, times have changed.
That they have. Well, thank you for all coming out and hearing our tales of whales, and for supporting the Historical Society of Long Beach. Thank you.